Hello lovely people, welcome to part 2 of my October reading wrap up.
Doobie 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 doo. Doobie 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 Sophie vlogs.
As I said in part 1, I have a cold. I'm just going to try and persevere. I'm sorry if I'm a little wibbly wobbly today. Let's start off with my library book that I have to return. This is You Are the Detective, The Creeping Hand Murder by Maureen Jansson and J. Cooper. This was really fun and sweet. This is essentially like a it's not a choose your own adventure book, but that's always what I want to compare it to. It is presenting a murder mystery case to you, and then you hit a point in it where it gives you the point. It's like, do you now is down to you. Who do you think did it? And then once you've come up with your idea, you can turn the page to find out the answer. What I really liked about it is because it's all fully illustrated, you're given all of the clues, and you're given excerpts of the interviews between the police and these suspects. You're given other evidence. You're given like everyone has like what's in their pockets. You're given clues in a really fun way. So I think the act of reading this is fun. I lent it to my fiance and he read it as well, just because I was like, it'll be so quick, but you'll have a fun little time. I think the downside is that I think everyone has a reason they could have done it. I don't think that the person who did it is. I don't think there's a lot in there here that gives you like this person definitely. Like I think that bit was like when I turned out, I was like, okay, this is the one you went with. Okay, but I think it was really fun and enjoyable, and I do hope that they do more. I could see this being something that like everyone gets better the more they do it. My other two proper Halloweeny books that I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. This was because I wanted to read something that was like Halloweeny, but also I was feeling a bit stressed out. So I also wanted something that was cute and fun, and this definitely fulfilled that brief. This is like a cozy romance book. We follow Mika, who is a witch, and essentially, witches are not supposed to fraternize in this world because they have to keep their existence secret. But she answers this job listing for this house that they have 3 young girl witches who are growing up, and they need someone to help them control their magic. And while she is there, there's a little grumpy man who might actually have a heart of gold. This has very much got a very cute like found family aspect running through it. It's got a little grumpy sunshine romance. I don't like just using tropes to describe something, but you know when you're like, this is actually the easiest shorthand way of me telling you like these big theme moments in it. I think what I really liked about this is that there are a lot of lovely little detail moments, particularly when it comes to like the descriptions of place and like how people's rooms are, and the way that Mika uses her magic. Like she's very much like a potion witch, and I loved all of those like little details like that. I found this like unconventional family aspect was really sweet. I even quite enjoyed the romance, to be honest with you. I was really enjoying it. 75 to 80% of the way through, there's some stuff that's revealed that I remember sitting there and thinking, like, God, that's a bit out there. I was like, oh, this is taking a bit of a turn. I don't know. It's very hard to talk about that without spoiling things. I think like the reveals that happened right at the end, I was like, this both feels like we have escalated matters dramatically and also don't seem to be taking that as seriously as I think we should be. But equally, it got a little bit heavy-handed at the end, I think, with like some of the discussions it was happening and all that kind of thing. But I still thought it was lovely. I still really enjoyed it. I know that there's a second one. I don't think it's a sequel. I don't think it's set in the same world. I think it just is another sweet little witchy romance book, and I might give that one a go. But for 99p, thoroughly enjoyed. And next was more of like a paranormal urban fantasy. This was Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. This is the first of the Mercy Thompson series. I picked this up for my try a chapter tag because I picked it up because when I did my romantasy project at work, I was trying to find like more older urban fantasy things that we could recommend as like a, if you like this, why don't you try more of a classic? And I thought I would feel quite nostalgic about this. I definitely did. This is the type of book which I really think if I'd read as like a teenager, I would have absolutely loved. As it was, I still had like a really fun time with this. This is definitely a world that I feel like Patricia Briggs really understands her world building. Like, if any, there might be slightly too much world building information from time to time, but she really like every character has a backstory. Every person like they're not just a throwaway character, like they have backstories. The world has backstories, and I really actually liked that aspect of it. I think it helped the world feel quite real. It did mean that sometimes like introductions to people would be a little bit info dumpy, and I think sometimes she repeats information a little bit, but I think for me I really liked that. It helped some of the characters feel a bit more real, even if they sort of exist within a certain like archetype or whatever. Um, this Mercedes is a mechanic. She is like a coyote, so she can transform into a coyote, and she exists alongside a lot of werewolves. And essentially, like a lot of this is to do with like some werewolf shenanigans that are happening that she becomes embroiled with. Um, I think I said in my try chapter tag that I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this because I don't love werewolf romances because I'm not super big on all of the like pack dynamic kind of stuff. I read Gail Carriage's series, Parasols and Whatnots, and I generally enjoyed it and had a fun time, but I didn't care for the I'm a huge werewolf man and you're so small and I'm really possessive, and I didn't like all of that side of it. And I will say, this has a it wasn't as much of a romance as I thought it was going to be. I didn't mind the romantic elements as much as I thought I might. It is a little bit of a love triangle in that I think I know who we're setting up the romance for, but it also wasn't like 100% clear. But what I experienced so far, I was like, do you know what? This is fine actually. This level, fine. No one is like, well, no one's like hugely pissing me off. There were a lot of really good side characters. Like, I think actually the romantic relationship I like the most in this is actually between a werewolf who is gay and his partner who, because werewolves, I hate the werewolf society is intrinsically misogynistic. I don't like that. So as a result, he's not allowed to tell his werewolf partner because they don't view it the same as like a marriage. Um, his relationship is the one I'm most emotionally invested in. There are also a few moments where I can really tell that this was this published in the 2000s? Yes, 2006. There are moments in this one I can really tell that this is like a mid 2000s book. But do you know what? I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. I'd be really interested in continuing the series. The next book in the series is not actually a Mercy Thompson book, it's focused on someone else. So if you've read this series, I would really like to know, should I continue, because my library has some, should I continue in the publishing order, so go to the other characters book, or do I continue in the Mercy, like do I read all the Mercy ones? Tell me your thoughts, that would be lovely. A book that I listened to that I thought was brilliant, 5 stars, was Revolutionary Acts, Love and Brotherhood in Black Gay Britain by Jansson Okundaye. And this is a oral history of Black Gay Britain. I will say, it says Black Gay Britain. It's London. There's a few people who did not start off living in London, but they all moved to London. It's London. It's only England. There is no other Britain. I'm sorry, that's like a personal bugbear of mine. When people refer to Britain, they just mean England / London. However, that's my only criticism of this book. I thought it was brilliant. I think it is a wonderful, like, thing to exist. I think oral histories are so important, particularly when they are to do with minority groups and like queer history, which is so important, like to look after and hold. And I think what Jansson Okundaye did really, really well is this is essentially like 7 people that he talks to and just records their life, their history. A lot of them have been activists in some form, and that was fascinating. And then also like some of them know each other, and that was another thing that was really interesting, was like he would talk about like what each other thinks of each other, because there's like one guy who is like quite contentious in that he's like very strongly opinionated, and as you would expect from someone who's involved in activism, you know, this kind of thing. So they don't all marry up in their thoughts and their opinions. But this capturing of a generation, this capturing of these people's stories told in their own words, and then you have Jansson gives you other details of like when he was interviewing them or the research that he did to find and corroborate things. I just found it brilliant. I thought it was wonderful. I'm so pleased that it exists. My latest buddy read with Ashley over at the Untrained Librarian has been Duncton Wood by William Horwood. This is the first book in the Duncton Chronicles. This is a 700-page fantasy series about moles. It was a great thing to read in autumn. So this first book follows the Duncton Wood mole system. The setup essentially is that there is this big, horrible, mean old mole called Mandrake who comes to the Duncton system, and he begins this like reign of terror supported by his henchman Rune, and you follow Bracken and Rebecca, who are these two moles who have this like love story, and through their love they like challenge Mandrake's rule, and then there's a lot of stuff to do with this that is to do with this the Duncton Stone, and there's almost like this like mole religion thing going on. I really enjoyed this. I gave this like 4 stars. These are definitely moles that read like they could be humans, for sure. This is not like a everything that's happening is on the scale of moles kind of thing. This is like, a lot of this is like love and religion and conflict and all this sort of thing. What I really liked that William Horwood did really well was he took his time with the telling. Could this be described as a book that is overlong and not as much happens as should? Potentially, yes. I liked taking time. Like, this spans a real whole mole generation, and the natural world felt so real. There's a lot of conflicts in this that are not to do with these greater topics, but are actually like, there is a drought, there is a illness, there is the way that the natural world manifests as sometimes these passages that are like the glory of nature, and other times the passages that show you how dangerous it is to be a small creature living in the woods. And I really liked that combination. It felt very real and very like immediate sometimes. I also was really fascinated by this, like, I guess, like mysticism that is at the heart of this. There is like there's this sense that this is a world slightly in decline because the stone is not worshipped as it once was. There are these like scribe moles who live in this place called Uffington, and there's been no contact with them for forever. There was this golden age of moles at one point where like all of this was thriving, and it's not there anymore. And like it feels like the arc of this book is like, can we get back to that? Can we begin to turn the cycle around? And I liked that element of this like real cycle of existence. Like a lot happens, a lot of time happens in this. So I enjoyed all of that a lot. One thing I really have to give a trigger warning for, that I did not expect to have to give a trigger warning for the mole fantasy book, is that there is an extremely distressing act of sexual assault and rape in this book that I found viscerally unpleasant. I'm not entirely sure it was necessary. I'm a bit tired of reading fantasy books where, like, in this case, women moles are really, like, sexually assaulted and all that. Like, it's not, I really don't like it. So that's like my dark spot on this, is that I actually don't think that was necessary, and I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy the rest of the book. I think that these, like, there is something almost biblical in this type of like coming of these chosen ones to like turn the tide and bring the holy stone back and all this kind of thing. Yeah, this is a waffly way. I genuinely enjoyed this. I think reading it at this time of year was great. I recommended this to my other friend, and she read it in, I swear to you, 2 to 3 days, and absolutely loved it. Has ordered the rest, is reading book 2 as I do this right now. I thought that I had bought book 3 of this because I saw it at a charity shop for £1, but actually it turns out that there is a second trilogy of mole books, and I bought the final book of that trilogy. I don't know if I'm going to commit to reading 2 whole mole book trilogies, but I think I will try and get my hands on book 2 because I actually really enjoyed it in the end. A book that I did not enjoy as much was Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May. This is a non-fiction book that really blew to popularity during the pandemic. it's the what is sold is that it's this idea of these times of your life wintering where things are not going to plan and things are hard, and I guess how it was always marketed was sort of like wintering is embracing and leaning into that and allowing yourself the space to, in my head, be a soft little warm creature and go into mouse mode and just endure and get through things and find a way, and don't push yourself to do crazy things like you're in your wintering phase. That aspect, that concept, I think is great. This is my second Katherine May book, and I have this experience with this one that I also had with Enchantment, where I think the idea of the book sounds really interesting, and I don't like the way that it's executed. I always end up finding that we never really do as much with the concept as I want us to do. We end up going on these like random explorations that don't feel. Some moments of this, like when she was exploring dormice, I loved it. There were moments of this that I was like, this is great. I love what you're talking about here. I love this exploration. I just struggle with the rest of it. Like how she opens this book is she opens this book with a description of like, it's her birthday, her and the family have gone to the beach, and her husband's complaining because he doesn't feel very well, and she's so annoyed at him because she's just like, why are you ruining my birthday? And then she begrudgingly takes him to the hospital. Turns out that he had like a, oh god, is it when your spleen ruptures? Like, essentially an organ ruptured and he needed surgery. And I was like, this is such a weird thing to open the book with and just be like, I didn't care that my partner was in loads of pain and it was actually really annoying, and begrudgingly I took him like that. Like, I don't know, it was weird. And that kind of like came up, there was like a few times where I was reading this where I was like, God, this is really uncaring of you to be telling me this anecdote in this way. So I guess it's one where I sometimes I feel like the idea at the core of it is really, really lovely, and then there's like too much author, too much of this like other stuff that I'm like, oh, this is what you want to talk to me about? What about that though? Um, I think I'm in the minority. I think lots of people love it. I just find it's difficult, isn't it, when someone's kind of like writing from like a place of being a very comfortable, well-off person. Because she was talking, I don't want to I don't want to talk down like the health problems she was having, the issues she was having, but like she just goes on holiday to Iceland, has a nice time in a sauna, and then talks to you about what saunaing means and stuff. And I was like, well, when I've had shit times and my health's not been great, I haven't been able to fuck off to Iceland, have I? I don't know, man. It's a bit weird. I think I summed that up very well, but I am ill, so I'm just going to carry on. 3 more books and then I'm done. Next up is The Seventh Veil of Salome by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love Silvia Moreno Garcia. I'll read most everything that she writes. This is a historical fiction that is exploring, both in the 1950s, making this film about Salome. And there's sort of two main women in that period. There is this young Mexican ingenue who has been cast out of obscurity to play Salome, and the experiences that she is having, her first exposure to Hollywood, some of the racism that she is experiencing, this like love affair. There is another woman who believed that she should have been cast by Salome and has a deep hatred of this woman and is sort of not doing so hot and spiraling. And then there is like a third perspective that is Salome, that is a sort of a historical retelling of Salome, the biblical figure, but I also got the sense that maybe there were times when I was like, is the Salome storyline what the film is supposed to be, or is the Salome storyline like supposed to be the real, and then the film is not that? I don't know. That bit I wasn't 100% sure on. I think that Silvia Moreno Garcia writes absolutely lovely. If you like those like sort of historical fiction books that explore like that golden age of Hollywood, like I guess reading this did make me think a little bit of stuff like Evelyn Hugo, in that you're getting this vision of like recording a golden age of Hollywood movie. It really reminds me of something else as well that I'm absolutely failing to put my finger on, but there's another book comparison in here somewhere. I think she writes historical detail really lovely, and I liked in the 1950s section, like, you don't just get it from these two women's point of view. You will get a little bit of like someone who is now interviewing this person, and then later that person you'll realize like, oh, this is this person in our woman's plot line or whatever. So I liked how that sort of not like a mixed media, like a mixed perspective sort of telling. That was really fun. I do think that it is quite a slow-paced book. I definitely enjoyed the reading of it, but didn't always feel the biggest drive to read it. There's sort of this kind of recurring thing that's pushing it onwards, that is, you get the sense that something happened. Something happened during the shooting of this movie. What could it be? I think it's sort of quite obvious what you hit a point where you're like, surely it must be this. And it kind of is, and you're like, okay, lovely. So I really enjoyed it. I don't think it blew my socks off. I guess I would compare it to, I guess it made me think of the daughter of Dr. Moreau, just in the way that it is that slower paced historic setting. That would be my comparative point, I guess. I did enjoy it. It's just not my fave. Ultimately, I read Comet and Moominland by Tove Jansson. This has been my year of Moomin. This is the second Moomin book that was published. I gave it 5 stars. I just thought it was adorable. I gave it 4.5 stars on Storygraph because I do think ever so slightly there are a few little bits of being slow. But essentially, there is a comet heading towards Moominland, and you follow Moomin, Troll, and Sniff, and they go on this journey to find out more about the comet and figure out what to do. Along the way, this is where you pick up a lot of the extended cast that become part of like the Moomin family. So you meet Snufkin, you meet the Snork Maiden and Snork. You meet a lot of these characters. What I have loved about the Moomins, reading them this year, is yes, there is this delightful whimsicalness, and there's these lovely little ideas and visuals. At one point, this bit on the cover, it's like, because the comet is heading towards the Earth, the sea has dried up, and so they have to use stilts to walk along the bottom of the ocean to try and get back to Moomin Valley. And as they go, they pass like a pirate ship that's sunk, and they find buried treasure on it, but also a giant octopus who tries to attack them. Like, there's such these like imaginative escapades that's lovely, but there's also like a very real facing up to catastrophe. The first book, there is a flood, the Moomins have to leave their home. This second book, they are dealing with the fact that a comet could land and destroy everything, and it's like, what do you do about that? What do you do with that information? How do you cope? How do you handle it? And so often in the Moomin world, how you handle it is that you find your family, and family is not just blood, family is this whole extended world of characters, but you find them and you just do what you can, and you look after each other and you treat each other the best you can, and you make a big old cake and do your best. I love them mooms. The final book I want to talk about is an absolute chonker. This is Normal Women, 900 Years of Making History by Philippa Gregory. I also thought this was great. This opens with the Norman Conquest and goes along to up to 1994, I believe. And it is an exploration of the history of normal women. So it's so widely encompassing. It is, in all of these sections, it's sort of like split by time periods and years and stuff. It's just exploring like what it means to be a woman in that time. What was women's existence like in lots of different aspects and areas of life? And as it works through, you get to see how those different aspects and areas change. And my dad was absolutely correct when he said that I was going to really like it, but also it would make me so angry, because what you get time and time in this is this cyclical, things get better for women and progress is made, and then these things happen, and then someone is put in power, and then things get worse for women, and some of those progresses are taken away again, and it's like this endless, unceasing cycle. And one thing I loved finding out these stories of like women that are like obviously like in some way known, because we know these stories enough for them to be in here, but these women who definitely are like lesser focused on, and that experience of more what it would be like if you are just a person in this time period. And yes, there will be like more notable people that are talked about, but overall you're getting this all-encompassing existence glimpse I think maybe the downside is that sometimes this does feel like a whole bunch of information that you are reading, and it's like pockets of info, and none of these women are focused on in like huge depth because we're going for such a broad overview. But I just thought that that broad overview was just done like really, really well, and I just found this like utterly fascinating. I would also say that it's actually it's generally quite inclusive. There is a continual focus throughout on all the different time periods of what it was like to be a woman who loves women, and how those like attitudes and law change, etc., etc. It also like generally is trans inclusive. I think Philippa Gregory is really trying to be trans inclusive. Sometimes some of her wording, I was like, not the best way of wording that, or not how I would have probably referred to this person from the way that she is writing. It seems like it is coming from a place of inclusivity. I just think it's such a feat, but it was absolutely fascinating. And I also really like the cover is made up of, these are individual pictures of women that are making up this one broader woman. I just thought it was great. That is everything that I read in October. As per usual, I'd really love to hear if you have read any of these. Please do leave me your thoughts down below. I hope this was in any way interesting. I think I have lost what little mind I had when I started recording, so thank you for sticking with me if you have. Hopefully next time I see you I will be better and make more sense. But until then, have a really lovely day.